Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Bible and Brunch. I think that's going to be the name we got to change it up to. Bible and Brunch. We're back. We've done a couple of weeks break. We've all been either traveling or with family, and it's been a blessing to be filled up again, filling up our cups in different ways as Brian fills up his cup. Very, very well. Very good. So, welcome, guys. How are y'all doing?
Good, doing good.
Doing
Brian's
good
always with the
with the
Yeah, my,
mate.
my bad. Yeah, I'm good. I just don't want to interrupt. You never know when someone else is gonna speak first.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just do the signs that you get on Zoom, right? The
no, but I'm good.
why
I'm
does this
good.
always happen to us,
Dude,
man? Whenever
it's
we do like a
a
we get some
break and then
trouble
we
or
get
we
back
come back.
into it. We're like, wow.
All right.
The thing is, man, I just wanted to share how we are uncomfortable with silence,
Dang,
Okay.
that's deep.
That's
That's
deep,
deep.
and God says in Psalm 46, be still. And that's it. All right. Well, today we're talking about going into a new book. As pastors, we like to talk, so we're not used to silence. Um, but yeah, hope y'all are doing good. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. A lot of sports going on right now. We got the playoffs, and we'll get to that. The Euro Cup, the Copa America. So we'll be talking about that a little later. But without further ado, we're just going to jump into Hosea chapter 1, doing a new book. We just finished Philippians maybe a month ago already. It's been a while, a couple
Yep.
weeks ago. And so going into Hosea, consider one of the minor prophets. And something very interesting about Hosea is that we'll see it right now when we open up the first verse, is that he was a prophet that served under more kings than any other prophet. So his ministry was about 35 years of length, right? So you think of other prophets. I mean, Jonah was for a while too, but he had that main thing that he was doing there. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it and then we'll break it down. It starts like this: the word of the Lord came to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Jehoash, king of Israel. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her, for like an adulterous woman, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel. Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call her Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. That's rough. Yeah, for I will no longer show love to Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses and horsemen, but I, the Lord their God, will save them. And after she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, I don't know. Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, call him Lo Ami, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted, in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people. They will be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will come together. They will appoint one leader and will come out of the land. For great will be the day of Jezreel. Boom.
It's heavy.
Heavy stuff, yeah. So definitely a different. I don't think we haven't done a book of the a minor prophet or a major prophet book. We've done Psalm. I think is the only book.
We've done a couple of songs.
Oh, we've done a
Did
couple of Psalms, yeah.
like five.
Yeah, we've done a couple of Psalms, but um, it's a clearly different type of book, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it feels different, right? Where we know that we did Philippians, we did Romans and Hebrews. Did we? James? We didn't do Romans.
We
Maybe we've
did,
done a couple. We've done a couple, but those books, nevertheless, they're all more pastoral books, right? Where they're Paul encouraging the church, and here you have something before really the church is established. Is the people of Israel, where God is sending His messengers or prophets to not only predict what's coming, but more than that, to awaken their situation and to say, "Hey, yo, live right, change your way, because it's the way you're going is leading down a bad way," right? So Hosea is one of these dramatic tellings of that, where as we saw, right, the first verses, he reigned. He was a prophet during the reigns of many kings, and this is kind of coming to the end of Judah and Israel when they start doing some bad moves politically that causes them to have the powers that be and to come and exile them, right? And eventually, it ends up with being exiled to Babylon, where we get Daniel and all that. But
Mhm.
before that happens, God sends out Hosea to just kind of warn them of the trek they're going down. And he does this dramatic, crazy thing. Obviously, God has asked the prophets do many things to point, kind of to illustrate in person what they're doing. But one of these is probably one of the most like dramatic, right? Go marry a promiscuous or a prostitute and have children with her. And the lesson that he tells in verse 2 is because, like an adulterous wife, the land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. So you sit down and you're like, dude, that's kind of rough. Can you imagine? We're not considered prophets or modern day prophets, but it's a different. We're more pastors in the sense that Paul was. But can you imagine God? I got a plan for you. I got a mission for you, and your mission is to model my relationship with Israel. And it's like, all right, bet we got this. And then it's like, all right. You're gonna get married, and they're like, "Oh, legit, okay. I've been single. I'm excited." And then it's like, you got to get married to an adulterous woman. I'm not gonna tell you which one. You go look for a prostitute because I need to teach them a lesson. Like literally, the religious leader of the nation is living out this, I guess, unfaithful marriage. It's a crazy situation when you really think about it. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. Of just were you allowed to read this as a kid? Like it's very.
If I did read it, I don't think I understood a single word, but
Yeah.
I did my Bible reading, so
Yeah,
I
you
was
went
a
through
good Christian, had a good relationship with God because I mumbled through this chapter. No,
it.
honestly, the name that kind of jumps out at me in the page, at least in the first couple of verses, is Uzziah, simply because there's that famous Isaiah, how it starts.
Oh,
It starts
true.
like at the death of the king Uzziah. He receives this like vision of like God sitting on his throne, and I don't know. It's kind of crazy because when you come to think about it, all of us here we're pastors, and these guys, I guess, were the pastors of their time. Right, the prophets of their time, and I can already see Hosea, and he's like, oh, ministry it's got to be good, and then Isaiah has like this like phenomenal like vision, and it gets to do like speak about these great things. Perhaps not the greatest of endings for Isaiah, but then you have Hosea, who's like, I'm a preacher, too, I'm a prophet too, but I don't get, I don't get like this huge vision. What I get is like, yeah, go give me the example of what my relationship like is with
Yo, that's a
my
good
people,
point.
and that really sucks, man. That really sucks. And I think that whether it be ministry or really any profession, we tend to kind of look at things in the perspective of what maybe what other people have, or what other people what their experience has been, and we uh, we look at that. That's the ideal. That's what I want. So yeah, sure, I'll get into the same
Mhm.
line of
Mm-hmm.
work, or the
Mm-hmm.
same line of whatever. And it turns out not to be that way.
Yeah,
I could I would have been like super discouraged, I guess, if I was Hosea. I don't know who came first. I'm assuming Hosea comes first because he
I think
mentions
so. Yeah.
Uzziah, right? But even still, is like, yo, that ministry is nowhere near as glamorous as we look at Isaiah's ministry, like how Isaiah talks about Jesus, and oh, Isaiah's a major prophet, but this guy,
Right.
you're a minor prophet, right?
Right.
Kind of thing. And I don't know. I guess it's kind of it's kind of encouraging to see that he goes through with this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say like, nah, you know what, God, just give me a vision, I'll speak to the people about this vision. Or he doesn't go on and like illustrate like through stories or whatever what their relationship with God is like. Nah, he actually does the mission that God sends him out to do, which I think sometimes is the most difficult thing, is to actually accept that, right? And be willing to do what God is asking, even though it's like, I don't want to, I don't want any more of
Right.
that.
Right.
And just to keep talking here, I like what you mentioned, Seba, which was like, he doesn't really tell him what promiscuous women to marry.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that he has to go out and look for a woman that resembles most what he knows about the history of Israel and its relationship to God. Which I don't know if he like had to check off some boxes of, I don't know how he went about choosing her, but to see that, as the story develops, to see everything that he has to go through, and still go through with it is rough.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Mm.
Dude, I like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve, before I just want to
No,
just
go
highlight
ahead,
that
yeah.
again, just like that. If how many of these prophets, obviously we're not great with our dates and when what prophet lived with what, when maybe we should, but I was trying to pull it up. But just to know that you have a contemporary prophet, as you do with any, obviously for us, for pastors or any profession, like it's really easy to just sit back and be like, man, why did he get the cool vision of God on the throne, and then God anoints his lips and he's like, oh, all right. Jeremiah gets like this, hey, I called you. And here Hosea, it's like the only thing we have written from him is that God's like, hey, I'm speaking to you. And when he began to speak to Hosea, he's like, yo, go find a prostitute. I'm going to make you a literal illustration of my relationship with Israel. And it's like, that's not fair. I wanted to see you in your glory. And here I am trying to really, I feel like this is a lot more heavier of a task for me to do than what these other guys are having to do. Right. So I think it's a lesson. It reminds me of what Jesus tells Peter when he's like restoring him right by the sea. And Peter's, he's asking him, do you love me? Care for my sheep. And he's like, I love you, blah, blah. And then he asked about John, and Jesus is like, what's that to you? Like, why does what happens to John matter? Yeah. You follow me. And so it's kind of that idea, right? Where I think each of us are on that journey, whatever we do, right, of realizing it's, if you're going to spend your whole life, comparing your families or your work, what you've attained and different with other people, you're going to be unhappy your whole life, because there's always someone that's doing better or that has it easier, it seems, or is dealing with different things. And so it's really that idea of like, who cares? Just follow me, man.
And that's true. Like, even if you're like following God, you can still be extremely unhappy because of that whole like comparing, concept and things that we naturally do. So yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah, Steve. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, it's a lot of good things, man. I had never seen it from that perspective. Just initially, I just wanted to point that out, like just that sort of dynamic of how Hosea could be like, yo, how is this the hand that I'm dealt?
How is this fair?
Yo, how is this fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's crazy, right? Because I think we have this sort of idea that following God, or like saying that your willingness to God now equals something great for you. Like, obviously the salvation, obviously that's huge, but like, I think we think it's gonna be something else. Like, like we're gonna, whether you want to, whether we jokingly would be like, oh, I'm gonna get this parking spot, or I'm gonna get into this school, or I'm gonna go here, or I'm gonna be able to, be able to speak in front of hundreds of people, whatever that thing is that you think is going to happen. Obviously it's not happening to Hosea. I mean, maybe for him, he was like hoping to get married, like you were saying earlier. He's
probably God's single. Like, oh yeah, nice.
This is good,
Yeah.
But I guess too, like,
out there.
Yeah. And then on the note of like what I think, Brian, you were pointing out, like, I guess I'm always just curious to like what that process was like from verse 2 to verse 3. Like, he gets the like, God is like, all right, this is what you're gonna do.
That's facts.
And then it just goes like, there's those moments where I'm like, maybe it's probably a good thing it doesn't mention it for the little
Right,
kids that are
'cause-
reading the Bible, you know. Like as we were saying, like, as a kid, I never read this, but like, and it's just all of a sudden. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of,
Mhm.
like, how does he find her? What does he know? Like, what is sort of? I wish there was a
how
little
is-
bit more
right,
there.
That's true. Kind of the juicy
How does
details.
How does he arrive there?
I
And then
wonder if it was,
literally
like,
in verse
really
3.
spiritual or just like very just like based on the eye. You know, which way did he go about
Yeah,
it? Like
that's what I'm
in
thinking, like-
prayer, or
Bro.
like, all right, let me see what's worth.
But just imagine,
he's
like,
like,
how
if
do
I'm
you
gonna
have
do
that
this,
yeah. I'm gonna go to the worst. Yeah, but it's like, imagine that
Yeah.
conversation with, like, obviously we you look through some of Jeremiah, some of the prophets were kind of hated by the other prophets or kings of their group, so they were kind of like an outlier sometimes. But just having that
Yeah.
conversation with his with either some other prophets or some other people, and saying, hey, this is God's plan, and people trying to maybe convince him, like, yo, you're crazy, bro, this is wild, like, so. And then
This
how
is
do you
not
tell your
God's
family,
plan.
hey, I'm having a wedding, right? And obviously typical, we see Jewish weddings later on in the New Testament, but it was like a whole week-long ceremony and stuff. We see that with Jacob too, and when they trick him and sleeping with Leah, which is a whole nother story in and of itself. But like, I just that having that conversation, which I'm sure we kind of had at different levels, right? Where just the idea of going into ministry, sometimes your family's like, why, right? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good or bad. But here it's like a whole nother one where it's like, not only is he going into ministry and to, God's calling him to be a prophet, but he's
But this is what it looks.
at the wedding. It's like, yo, this we know that girl. We've seen her around with some, and that's awkward, man. We've seen her around with some other dudes. Like, that's, yeah, man. I just can't imagine. Yeah,
you just think about, like,
that's tough.
yeah, just that conversation of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a prophet. I'm gonna serve the Lord, and the Lord has told me to do this, and you're just like, what the? It's just
Say, nah, man. You're not listening to God's voice. That's your own voice, bro. What are you talking about?
and then too, like in verse 3, it escalates to, like, very quickly, like they get married, and then all of a sudden they conceive and have a son. Like, it just
Right,
is,
man.
it just is so much in verse 2 and 3, and then it just shifts to the naming in verse 4,
Yeah.
which I guess is a whole separate element, I guess, to kind of shift into that. The
Yeah.
names, like the
names,
names,
man.
I think the names, and I'll share this. Like, I think I've wrestled with the names, like, as I've read it.
Mhm, mhm.
I think I've wrestled with, like, like, why are,
The
I guess
kids.
you want to say innocent kids, right? If you want to go that route, right? Why are
Mhm.
just kids who have done nothing per se? Why are they being named in a way that sort of, like, anyone, and especially there, the context is not the same now. Like, if we were to name someone Jezreel, no one's really gonna know. If we were to name
Right.
someone, La Ruhama, like, no one's really gonna know. They'd be like, oh, that's an interesting name. But I think at that time, like, there was so much connotation with, what your name meant,
Mhm.
and for them, like, for their literal name to be, what does it say? I will punish the house of Jehu. But like just imagine that as a kid,
Yeah.
and like their identity is sort of, it can feel as though their identity is tied to this
Yeah.
negative thing. I don't know. It just was something that I've always sort of wrestled with in the back of my mind of, like,
sure.
man, why did that, or maybe to a certain degree, like, was that necessary?
Yeah.
Like, man,
Yeah.
was, like, I mean, and I think too, I wonder if Hosea probably thought the whole time is wondering, like, is it necessary to this degree? Like, do we have to go
Mhm.
to this level to prove the point? And how is me doing this proving anything? Is it just for me? Is it for
Mhm.
everybody else?
Mhm.
Yeah. And but I guess too, you see in verse 5, on that day I will break the bow of Israel, or the bow of Israel, in the valley of Jezreel.
Mhm.
And so just how that signifies that, I don't know. I just wonder, like, what Jezreel's life was like.
Dude, yeah.
Like, what was it like? And unfortunately, like, we don't have too much
Information about, yeah.
information beyond that.
I
But
think
I don't
that
know. It was just,
in a way, it's showing kind of like the ripple effect of someone kind of following this, like, calling from God, right? Because like the kids didn't have a choice, right?
Right.
Who's to say Gomer had a choice? I don't really know.
yeah.
But the kids for sure didn't have a choice to kind of be part of this ministry that and if you can call it ministry, part of this
The
like
worst form of a
message,
PK.
This like
right?
social experiment.
And so you kind of feel for these like PKs, right? Because it's like,
Yeah, man.
dang, like I didn't choose this, you know.
My mom's
But they're having to go around being, you know, oh, what's your name? Not my people. And it's like, dang, that sucks, you know. Or what's the other one? Not loved or something like that? Not
Yeah.
loved. It's like, imagine naming like a little girl not loved. It's like that's like the one thing that they need to have from the get go.
You like be in trouble, I feel like, by the law, bro. Like if you named your kid that.
Bro, yeah, it's
Yeah.
and it's interesting because like you were saying, right, Stephen, about the importance of names in the Old Testament, right? You have these crazy stories, you know, Abram being changed to Abraham and Jacob to Israel, like these like and like they really like formed their new character, right? So how much of this was like they may have walked in that what they were called, right? So they kind of acted out that reality. But I also think it went to Brian's point too, how even though they didn't have a choice to be a part of this, like they wherever they went, they were also a testimony or a testament to whoever it was, right? They're like, yo, what, not loved. And so I wonder, you know, if Hosea maybe was a healthy parent. Obviously we're not parents, so we can't really speak into this, but if they were able to sit down with them as they grew up and say, hey, look, the reason you're called is not because we don't love you, but it's because God is using you to prove a point, right? And so I don't know, if they were healthy, you can imagine they go around, hey, what's your school? What's your name? Oh, Lo Ruhama. Oh, what is not love? Well, they don't love you. No, my parents love me, but it's because, you know, we as a people.
My parents love me. God just doesn't love you
anymore.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, it's a tough. I think it speaks to the, you know, how, and I think what's very interesting too is like, even though we're not called to do this exactly the same thing as Hosea, it does, I think, show how like the whatever role you have for God, like as a pastor or a leader, it is a very like very what's the word? Very watched profession, right? Like, you know, there's a lot that rides on how you live and what you do, right? Where even in your life, which is a lot of pressure, I think, but even in your life, people are watching that, and God kind of communicates even in how you're living and the relationships you have.
Yeah. I really love. I don't know, Stephen. You typically have a different version, right? You don't read the NIV. Your Bible is something else.
I got
what is yours
NASB.
like? Verse 2 say, because mine says, when the Lord began to speak through Hosea. What does yours say there?
Mine says when the Lord first spoke through Hosea.
Okay, same thing.
Basically the same idea, yeah.
Essentially, dude, I think that's so awesome because, it says like when the Lord started speaking through like Hosea, through like his life, through like who he was, you know, he doesn't tell him to like preach a message. He just says, hey, go do this, right?
Oh, good.
And I think that many times, like when it comes to Christianity, just in general, we're like, oh, God's working through them. Why? Oh, because they're preaching, or you know, oh, because they're, you know, doing whatever, and a lot of it has just, you know, been kind of watered down to this whole sense of like, all right, if you speak Christian, then I guess you're Christian, you know,
right.
Whereas here is like, no, the moment that God started speaking through Hosea was the moment that Hosea started doing what God asked him to. You know, and
that's good.
I think like, yeah, for sure. You know, when it comes to salvation, when it comes to these things of faith, yeah, you know, you speak it, that's good enough, you know, whatever. But when it comes to actually like living it out, man, like
a lot of us,
that's cool. You know, the lingo, but you're not kind of living it out. It kind of is worthless in that sense. And so I love that. I don't think the other prophets, at least it doesn't say that about Isaiah, you know, when the Lord began to speak through Hosea, was when he actually started doing what the Lord asked him to. I think that we speak a lot about God, but God doesn't really speak through us in that sense, because a lot of times we're not willing to do what he's asking us to.
Yeah. But what a powerful imagery, right, for the people. You know, they hear there's a prophet. They're used to having prophets come and communicate to them, and this guy comes and they find out he's married to a prostitute, to really just awaken their dire situation, right? Sometimes you need to really like illustrate, like, oh shoot, that's how God views it, right? Because he loves us in a relationship, and we're literally cheating on him.
That's the thing, though, and you know, coming back to, you know, the first few verses, is like they're used to someone coming in and speaking to them about God or of God,
Right.
They're not used to someone coming in and having God speak through that person.
Yeah, that's good. Got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally different. Yeah, and I think too that, I guess for me, like, there's always this sort of search for mercy within this, right? And I think even still, like, in this sort of weird, could say weird approach or just different approach, I think, right, one, yeah, like you're saying, Brian, like there's a prophet that is doing something different, right, in terms of, communicating something that God has told to him, but then also still within that, this web of mercy that God is still sort of creating, and not just, pulling the rug out from everybody, but sort of like saying, hey, this is what I'm asking this prophet to do on my behalf, to communicate, me. And I still think there is this sort of call, right? And I think obviously as you continue through Hosea, that'll unpack more. But you just see, like, there's still this level of care and concern for the people. And I think even, I think in Hosea being willing to sort of carry that burden, and how that's playing out in his life, I think it's just an interesting dynamic, like kind of all at play. Cause I think God is sort of wrestling with love, justice, mercy, all these dynamics on, the people that he cares about, who have literally been doing the very thing that he's now portraying in Hosea. And yeah, I mean, maybe this is just God taking another approach. Like, hey, I'm gonna try this, because if Hosea were to walk up and say, you guys are cheating on me, with, doing harlotry, and I think we have seen that in the Old Testament, like that's already been sort of said,
Kind of
but I
done.
think this approach was different, and it's just interesting. It makes me kind of, think about, just the approach, and maybe, what God's intent was to a certain degree. And I think still at the core of that was still a desire to communicate to people the message of, hey, like, our relationship is fractured. How do we rebuild it?
It seemed like a last resort, really, because I feel like the next time that God uses this kind of approach is with Jesus, right? Where it's like, okay, you're not understanding what I'm preaching to you about love and who I am and all the things I'm willing to do for you and what it means to follow me. Okay, I'm going to show you through the person of Jesus.
Right.
And I think, like, that's what God uses when there's, like, really no other way to get through to us with his words. He has to literally show us. And it seems like that's the case here, because it seems like Israel is going to get destroyed. That's it. There's no other alternative. There's no other timeline, right? If you're watching Loki, you're just kind of stuck with this. This is the way that it's going to go down. And here's my last way of trying to get you to reason and to repent. Israel's still going to get destroyed, but you don't have to.
Right. Oh, that's good, man. I really, I do like those angles that you are bringing up, and just the beautiful thing of, it seems right. Like, I mean, the message remains the same for God always, like to awaken people, even ever since the garden of, hey, when you're walking in your own plans and away from me, it's going to lead in disaster. I know what's coming. So, and so it seems like, the closer it gets, the more intense the messages become, to the point where God has to do this drastic, like, what? And I think it's a cool part of God, where he's never changing. He's consistent in his message and what he's needing and wanting, but the method that he goes about doing it changes, right? And to the point, your point, Brian, beautiful, right? Where he's like, all right, they're not listening to other people, like the parable that Jesus says, right? I'm sending my messengers, they're killing him. Let me send my son, and maybe they'll listen to him. And we end up seeing that they like the parable, they kill the son as well. Right. But he's always trying to, maybe this is even a question or a way to help us in our conflict resolution, right? He's always trying to make amends and to restore and to help, right? Never. And as it gets harder and harder, or worse and worse, he's trying more intensely to communicate. But I mean, props to Hosea, man, for going through this. I mean, the shame that he must have, he could have easily said, I don't think it's worth this. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna get shamed from my religious community, from my family, from the nation. I'm getting looked down on. And then, as we'll read later on in different chapters, their relationship is a rocky one, right? To the point where she ends up leaving him maybe once or a couple of times. And I don't want to spoil the story, but in chapter 3, we'll see something beautiful that happens. But yeah, amazing thing. Something that was brought interesting when I was reading this is they highlighted that it's possible that his first son, right, in verse 3, she conceived and bore him a son. It's possible that the first child was his, but the other ones could have been not his, right? Because somehow there's some of the commentary I was reading was talking about the language makes it kind of vague, so it can be either or, right? It could be that she bore him a son, or it was she had another son, and that's why he's able to say, oh, this is not loved and this is not mine, because they're literally not my kids. Which then again is, I mean, obviously it's
Where's your scholar thing, bro?
scholar slip up. That's true, bro.
Yeah, that's your scholar slip up right there.
Yeah, good, man. So yeah, man, and I'm doing this. This is a pretty good book. Just gonna Andrew's Bible's commentary. They just came out with the Old Testament version. Short. If you're used to the other SDA Bible commentaries, there was like 20.
Yeah, like
20 volumes or whatever. Yeah, this one's the whole Old Testament is here.
Oh, that's nice.
It's pretty nice. It's a little smaller and very concise. It's kind of like the Andrew Study Bible notes in little, but they go a little more in depth. But it's been pretty nice.
Yeah, and I guess too, just on the note of the kids naming, I thought it was interesting. I know this is kind of getting into chapter 2, but I just was glancing over and how it does say. I'm not sure if your Bible does this, but in chapter 2 it says, "Say to your brothers Ami and to your sisters Ruhama." And it sort of drops the low, which I think the low is kind of the negation. So like then if it's just Ami, then it's just my people versus, the original name, which was not my people. So I don't know. It just was interesting that maybe,
where was that again? You said
right at the end, chapter 2, verse 1.
Oh, okay. The next
Say to your brothers Ami and to your sisters Ruhama. And so it removes the.
That's cool, man, because I mean, it ties in with what it leaves us off with in verse 10 and 11, which is like this sense of, wow, like there's something coming, like anticipation, because he says, yet Israelites, even though, he's talking about this destruction, will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. And then it says, in a place where it was said to them, you are not my people, they will be called children of the living God. So you're kind of left like with this, sense of hope that's like, okay, it's not over, even though the situation seems so hopeless at this moment.
Yeah, that the intent is restoration rather than rather than sort of retribution, right? The intent is that there's going to be rebuilding a connection, reconciliation in this relationship. And not just a relationship with God, but it says their relationship with their brothers, right? So Israel with Judah again. Yeah.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. I love that, right? Because if you would have ended the chapter at like 9, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Not my people, you're not my people, and I'm not your God. Boom. Hosea's like,
mic drop.
And then he's like, no, but yet there's that promise of that restoration, right? Of like, you're going to be as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Can't even be measured or counted. And then obviously transitioning to chapter 2, where they drop those negative, and it's like, no, you are my people. You are my. So like, this is kind of like that.
I wonder if that works against God, though.
What do you mean? Oh, like
it's like you're almost expecting him to do this sense of like, all right, he's going to damn me, but with the objective of restoring me.
Right.
So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that today, though. In people's lives, where it's like this.
You bank on his grace too much, where it's not really like.
Oh, he's gonna forgive me anyway.
Yeah.
So God is sort of always forgiving. And I think too, and I think that's the difficulty, right, with the sort of love, justice, paradigm, dynamic of like how does God still sort of give justice, right, give punishment where needed, right, and still be on the bed or the sea of love. Like how do those things coexist? I think while we wrestle with that in terms of ethically, I think God also fundamentally says that, and especially with God sort of declaring himself as being love, right? That whole dynamic of the different facets and the elements to love. And I think for us, how we can, I think it's easy for us to, I think we talk about, not feeling loved, right, or feeling as though God will push us away. But I think there's
Mhm.
also other elements of us that may just sort of assume God's going to forgive us. We can just kind of live however we want to, and we're good, because
Mhm.
we committed to God once, which
Right.
is
Right.
not a relationship. If you're in a relationship or a marriage, like, oh yeah, we're together, and that's it. Like, that's which I think is literally the point that he's making here with Hosea. Like, that is sort of, there's this lip service, there's this dynamic that you see in the minor prophets of everybody saying the right thing, doing the right thing, like Brian was
That's
saying
good.
earlier.
That's good.
And there's nothing happening in this relationship. There's no actual, like, you're not even coming home to me,
Yikes.
at night. It's not, we don't even have that dynamic yet. Your status, would say that you are in relationship with me,
Right.
but there is nothing demonstrating that. Yeah, which
That's
is
powerful. Yeah. And we'll see that, right? That literally happens to Hosea, right? Where it's that lip service, and you can have these like these kids, and yet still go back to the, to the streets, as we would say in our modern terms, right?
Yeah.
You can take the street, you can take the girl out of the streets. I guess that's bad.
You can't take the streets. Yeah,
You can't take the streets out of Gomer.
Yeah.
But that's But I mean, yeah, that's bad. I apologize. Very sour taste. But I think it is it's interesting, right? Because I think he runs that risk of being taken advantage of, as Hosea is clearly being taken advantage of, as we'll see as the story continues.
Yeah.
And his love and his goodness, and then he has to go through what God has to go through in redeeming and actually going and paying for us. But we do know at some point exile does come, right? There is a judgment that comes, right? And so that grace, though it's always there comes a point where it's like, I mean, I tried to warn. There's consequences, right?
Yeah.
There's consequences. So
the rule of life.
it's just how it is.
Yeah, and just to kind of continue to paint a picture around like what God might be going through. Just imagine like this guy who's like perfect and all this stuff, and all his angels around him just kind of looking at him, what he's doing. And if the people are calling Hosea like a really dumb person for, being with his ladies, like, what do you expect? What did you expect to happen? Or, as the story unfolds, like all the different obstacles that he has to go through to have her, in his house, and all these different things. It's like, that's exactly like how the people are reacting to Hosea and how he's living his life is probably exactly how you would expect angels perhaps to look at how God is trying to, work through this torn relationship, right? Or through this
That's good.
mending relationship with us. And it's got to be so difficult for him to kind of work through those dynamics of like, how do I satisfy, all these people and all these creatures who haven't fallen, who are looking to me as a just and loving God, but also, someone who isn't just like bent on like, oh no, this is what I want and I'm going to get it.
Right.
And I don't care how many, I don't care how many times Jesus has to go down there and do something, I just, it has to be really difficult to kind of work through that as well. Just thinking about, God here, because that's kind of like what Hosea is going through.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, just thinking about, they're probably like, you're a fool, man. Why would you do this for these people that are bent on leaving you? And I'm sure that's kind of Satan's accusations too to him, right? These people are always like, just give up on them, leave them to me, and
I wonder if like, God has a message for someone and he's like, hey, Gabriel, go send this message. If Gabriel's like, yo, are you sure? You sure you don't just want to just like, wipe them out real quick? But
yeah, because I mean, I think you even see that with how Jonah responds right after that whole thing, right? So he runs away, and I thought the other day, like maybe he was just running away because he felt like, yo, I'm gonna put in all this effort, and God's just gonna forgive them anyway, right? and I think there's that dynamic, and I think even as even in our world today, like we can just feel like, yo, like we just want, like, can't these people just be condemned, or can't they just be removed or pushed out to the fringes because they clearly deserve it, but like the heart of God just still continues to
So the
sort
last
of
second.
bend towards mercy and bend towards love, and how even prophets don't fully understand that.
Right,
You know,
right,
I mean,
right.
disciples walked with Jesus and didn't process still,
They
what he was about. Even like they didn't even understand why he was going to the cross, which
they
is
wanted
crazy.
they wanted to cast out fire too. Like that's just
Yeah.
big. Yeah. No, that's powerful. That's powerful. Just and which is beautiful. Just reminder for all of us that that should motivate us to live for Him and change. But it's that God is just so much more gracious than we even ourselves are to ourselves and to others. Right. So yeah, beautiful picture of God in the midst of a crazy scenario that maybe we didn't grow up reading as kids. Amazing book. So exciting to see. I know Hosea is one of my favorite Old Testament books simply because of the picture it paints of God, right? Not
I was gonna say, be careful what you.
you know. So yeah. Awesome. All right, we're moving into our lightning round here. And first question here goes to says, what is your dream trip location?
Dream trip location.
Trip location. If you could go anywhere.
Man.
I'll go first, simply because it's been on our mind. And I guess it's
Can we take a guess?
That's right.
Australia.
No, she wants to move to Australia. We literally had a conversation last night about it. But
your dream location is somewhere in Asia. I can't remember.
Yeah, she actually wants to go to Nepal, and I've actually been wanting.
That's
yeah,
right,
Nepal would be cool, and go climb the mounts over there. Yeah, so we're gonna see if it becomes a reality soon. I don't even know.
I haven't even thought about vacationing for a while. Like outside of the country. I didn't know you could still travel out of the country.
That's facts. That's true. That's true. It's possible, man. Planes still fly.
Planes still fly.
So I think Nepal would be for me, just to go out. I've never been to Asia.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, so it'd be cool to visit over there and be more cultured.
I've never been to Europe.
So it's Nepal, or you're just saying Asia? What do you?
Well, it's Nepal. Yeah, it's Nepal, but just in the context of never been to
Gotcha.
Asia, period. So
cool.
Where to go?
I've never been to anywhere in Europe. We were supposed to go. I was supposed to go to Italy last year, but obviously COVID.
Yeah.
But I've kind of wanted to do like Spain, Morocco, like that kind of, that I've wanted to do that for a while. So I'd probably say if someone was gonna give me a free trip, I'd probably take that right now, right? In this sort of hypothetical. This is a dream, right? This is a dream trip, right?
Trip
so
location. Right,
as I'm dreaming everything's free. Also,
you're
so
right. You're right. You're right.
You go to Dubai.
I mean, just a couple locations. Yeah, I'm gonna have a connecting flight in Dubai. Hop out for a little bit.
It's a 32-hour layover or something.
32-hour layover, and then just all free.
All free. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All inclusive. Yeah.
All inclusive too, man. Yeah.
So that'd probably be mine though. Probably Spain, Morocco.
Spain and Morocco. That's nice. Yeah. A lot of history there too.
I don't really know. Am I guaranteed like safety? Like I'm not gonna get kidnapped or anything like that?
If the Lord is with you, who can be against you?
It's guaranteed that that it's free.
Yeah, it's guaranteed that it's free.
Nah, dream trip. Yeah,
dream trip. Whatever you want, man.
Whatever you want. Let's just say this.
I honestly don't know. I think that I would want to make like some kind of trip that involves, I don't know, something that people like in the past may have done, like some kind of religious like walk,
like a pilgrimage or something.
Place.
The Adventist Heritage Tour.
No, thanks. No. I already did that one. But no, I doubt they all hopped on a bus and ate vegetarian food for a week.
So
got back.
That tore up my system, man. Seba knows, he had to smell it.
At least you didn't use at least you
too
weren't
much
the
veggie
one,
meat, huh?
You weren't the one to use the bathroom in the bus,
Oh my god.
Come on,
bro.
man.
Oh no, that's a no, man. Can't do that.
But yeah, I don't know, something like in probably, I don't know, man. I think like this professor guy preached about it once at one place where he did one of these walks across like Italy or one of those European countries to
like a reformer thing.
through like some different churches and whatnot of whatever. I don't know what. I don't know.
Waldensi, something like, like
But
one of them.
That'd be cool.
It was I forget his name. He's the Canadian guy, I think. I think he's Canadian. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Fortin.
Oh, Denny,
14, yeah.
Denny 14.
Yeah.
Denny.
Yeah. No, dude, but honestly, I think that anywhere new with some kind of adventure that I don't have to focus too much about like planning myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of like done, and you can just kind of like follow it and have that. Just anything that gives me experiences.
Yeah.
Aside from that, then probably something that is more like educational that brings me closer to people that are nothing like me. That'd be kind of cool too.
Yeah. Gainesville, Florida.
No, thanks. People that actually want to learn from. No, but yeah, I don't really have a place in mind right now.
In particular.
At the moment, I will actually, I'll do, sorry, Steven, I'll do Spain as well.
Oh,
just like particularly Barcelona, go watch Messi play one of his last games.
True.
I think that would probably be my pick at this specific moment in time.
yeah, that'd be nice.
I guess
all right.
I did that from the beginning and not.
Just NBA. All right, we're gonna do a 3-round here. NBA, Euro Cup, and Copa America predictions. Who are you guys? Who's taking each tournament? So NBA. We'll start with NBA.
I mean, considering the last time we were on, I said the Nets, and the Nets are still in.
So
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm gonna just stick with that. I think that's wrong because
anything can happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
I want it to be the Hawks, but
But they play tomorrow night, right? Next.
The Nets play tomorrow night.
8:30.
The Hawks play tonight.
Yeah. I just whatever team hasn't won. So we were talking about this before we got on. It says like the Suns,
Jazz,
except for that Brooklyn team. I don't want them to win anything.
Brooklyn, Suns, Jazz, Clippers.
Any of those?
None of them have one.
I don't think. I think the Hawks have one.
I guess I would go for the Suns simply because they beat the team that I wanted to go a little bit further, which is the Nuggets. So, yeah, I think that's what they beat.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay.
The Hawks have one. They won in 58. So
Suns it is.
58. Wow.
So my main thing is anyone but the Clips.
Yeah, it's kind of me. That's kind of me too. Yeah.
Anyone but the Clips, man, because we ride with Lakers here. We have it on hand. So
the LA first rounders.
Tell me why I went. I was in Staples last week, and I was trying to take pictures there outside, and the front of it had what it said. It said playoffs the Clippers way. And I was just like, I can't do this, man. So I took pictures with the backside of it. Yeah.
I guess that means they're getting out this round then, if it's the Clippers way.
Yeah, if it's the Clippers way, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. I'm good. But yeah. I think I took it says playoffs our way. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, playoffs, yeah, our way. Yeah, I mean, they're building a new stadium. They're kind of doing the whole, I think everything is kind of our way. It kind of as a pushback to the Lakers.
I always found it interesting too, like the font they use for. I don't know if it makes it seem more like.
I think it's like an LA font. I think it's a kind of a local LA.
Kind of for the streets.
Like there's like a whole story behind it. I think it's like it might have been some Mexican guys that designed it. But yeah. Because you kind of see that font on like cars and stuff too sometimes.
That's true. I
think that's kind of the vibe they're going for.
Got it. Yeah.
I mean, their marketing is good. I'll give it to them. Their marketing is doing really well.
Yeah, they're growing. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm gonna go with. I want to see the Suns win, but CP3 being out is kind of tough. But I think CP3 deserves one. He's been there. He's been always like this close. So many.
This is
times.
his best chance too. Because he's already 36. So
and they have a solid team. So everyone else is banged up. So we'll see what happens with the COVID stuff. But so yeah. All right. What about Euro Cup? So you got the European nations competing right now for the championship.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know it was happening, bro. But is this where the guy had the
Yes. From
cardiac
Denmark.
It was
Yeah.
from
Ericsson.
Denmark.
Yeah. So he
Okay.
had that, and yesterday when they played Belgium, they had like a little moment of silence. But
Okay.
thankfully, he's doing good. But I think for this, I'm gonna take. I was talking to Chantal about it yesterday. I'm in between Italy or the Netherlands, I think. But France is pretty strong. But I think I'm leaning towards Italy after I saw them play that game. They look pretty strong. Netherlands have a good team too, but yeah. Brian, you have a favorite?
Italy has good defense. Watching them for 90 minutes is the most boring thing in the world, even if they do score.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always, a contender just because of their history, and
Right.
obviously they have
Mhm.
good players and whatnot. I want to say Belgium. I'd like to see
Ooh.
Belgium lift it this year.
Belgium would be nice.
I guess with the Clippers, I would say anyone but France.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Belgium's a pretty strong team.
Belgium is strong.
Netherlands is still trying to get it together, I think. Since
I
like
feel like
the
they're
2010
always
World Cup, they haven't really done much.
Yeah. Especially,
they're
they have
like
a lot of
always
younger
right
people.
there, and
They
then
didn't even qualify
just-
for the last World Cup. Obviously, Germany is a strong team. They're able. I mean, when they went against France, honestly, Germany dominated the whole second half.
They did.
All France had was like a try to counterattack with a long ball to this guy. I forget his name.
Mbappe.
Mbappe,
Your
yeah.
favorite player.
Yeah, my favorite player. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what France kind of plays to,
Yeah, it's
because
just
they beat Germany because of an own goal.
right.
Um,
Their middle is strong. I mean, Conte and Pogba play good, but they just can't finish. And so I was like,
yeah, I feel like
wasn't too
Pogba
impressed.
plays a lot better for his national team than he
Than
does
Manchester.
for any of the clubs that he's played for.
Yeah, agreed.
You just have those players that just do really well in the national team, and that club level just suck. And you have it the other way around, that club
Right.
level amazing and national team just like
yeah.
the jersey weighs a lot. I don't know.
Yeah. Steven, what about you?
I mean, I always like to lean for the teams that are random, but it's not really working out well for me with North Macedonia. It's not
I was
really
about to
working out
say.
well for me. But
They deserve
kinda-
more than what they got.
Yeah.
to kind of, but they honestly counteract, Brian's favorite team, France, which is typically, I do like France. I do root for France, and then I do think Germany and Italy are always kind of just at the
always.
forefront. I just always like root for those teams. So that's why I like your Belgium mention. And I feel like my sleeper is Poland, though. I feel like Poland is always kind of like there. I haven't seen them play in the Euro yet, but I know typically, at least the last time, they always are like a decent team. Like they're like a tough out, but they just never like get to that next.
Yeah, I mean, you have your powerhouses, right? You have like Spain that's always going to be in the fight, but might not make it, and you have Czech Republic and Croatia and stuff like that.
And I know I said earlier I would want to go to Spain, but Spain was like my least favorite team in the Euro for so long. I guess it was
Spain?
like the Fernando Torres era.
Right.
I was surrounded by Spain fans, and I just was like,
yeah.
And then they had that's when they beat was it Netherlands they beat in like
I think so.
It was
Yeah.
2010. Yeah, 2010. Yeah, and that was painful.
Yeah.
Puyol, man, and that's painful.
They had a stacked team though. They had a strong team.
They had a
Xavi,
squad,
Iniesta, and Piqué, and
it was their year, man. If they didn't win it that year, they weren't gonna ever win it. 2010. That was a bit.
Yes, 11 years ago, yo. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
we're old. All right, last one for here. Copa America predictions. I think we know where most of us will lean. I don't know about Steven. Who's taking it? Copa America would be. I'm gonna go with Argentina. That's my desire.
That is my desire as well.
So we'll see. Brazil
is Brazil still in, right?
Yeah, Brazil's going strong, man.
Yeah,
They've
they're really.
won all their
I mean-
matches, and it was like 4-0 just
Yesterday, yeah, to
yesterday, I
Peru.
think. So
I'm rocking with Brazil, man.
Argentina keeps
Call me
tying,
basic.
man.
yeah, Brazil's gonna have it tough though when we get out of the group
Yeah.
Group stages.
stage, because right now who they have to play against in the table is like, what are the teams?
Venezuela, and Peru,
Venezuela, Ecuador,
Ecuador, Colombia,
Colombia, and who else?
Peru.
And Peru. So Peru and Venezuela right now are the weakest teams in South America. And then Colombia, they'll put up a fight, but they're not going to win.
They're not going to win, yeah. But Argentina's playing tougher competition, yeah.
And so you have the other side, and not just Argentina. For all those teams, it's tough because you have Chile, Uruguay, Argentina, and then the two guys that are fighting right now are Paraguay and Bolivia. Bolivia is probably going to be out, and then it's going to be those four.
Mm-hmm.
But then, Brazil has to go against one of those that have been playing against tougher teams.
At high level. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Argentina, Brazil. All right. So we'll see what happens. So we said a couple of predictions. We'll have to come back and see. All right. Last question here. What's the most adulting thing you've had to do this year?
Man, most adulting thing.
Find a nanny.
Oh. For who?
Yeah,
For my dog.
Oh.
I had to we had to find a nanny for Kylo, but also I had to sit down with my parents and be like, all right, what's your retirement plan? Like, what are you doing for retirement? And having that honest conversation with them to see what they had going on. Obviously, I'm more than happy with what they got, but I need to know what to prepare for in the moment that they retire. Is like, well, obviously I'm your son. I'm going to want to help you out, but I need to know like how much I'm going to have to help you out. And no, they're doing well. Honestly, like legit, praise God, they're doing well.
Good.
But yeah, that's probably one of the more adulting things I've had to do is speak to my parents about their retirement.
Wow.
Man, I'm wondering if I am adult over here. No, I did have that. I did have a similar conversation with my dad a couple months ago. Just in terms of what happens when you retire, because he's trending towards that age.
Yeah.
And I think he was telling me just about his will and all these things, and so that's actually something that I did do maybe. So I reached out to someone for a will, like kind of working on some of that stuff, but I was, or even like making sure that my life insurance was kind of, up to par and some of those things. So just in the case of, something happens, unfortunately we kind of are in that window too, where a lot of what we leave our spouse would be like student debt, but, but just trying to make sure that there would be some level of things that, they would have to be taken care of. So yeah, probably both, like that actual realistic conversation with your parents, just about like, what happens, when you retire, or maybe what happens when it feels like you're beginning to ail a little bit. And then even, I'm not sure, it's kind of a thing in general, right? That's sort of like, man, what happens when you get to the point where you need someone to care for you, and sort of what that would look like at that stage.
Yeah.
And then, just that whole thing with like life insurance and stuff like that. So that may be the most adulting thing or conversations that
you've had to have, yeah. I hear you.
Beyond that, I'm barely an adult, but clearly just in my actions. So.
Yeah. No, I think, there's been a couple. I think obviously we're all adults, so we've been doing stuff, but that's been one of them too. Ever since everything happened with my dad, and then going into this year, I was like, the same thing. Reaching out to the conference, working on a will for myself, which was like, I don't even have much to leave behind, but
yeah, I feel you.
All right, so working on that.
Like, this
and
took 15 minutes.
Yeah. You don't have anything else? It's like, nope, I don't have anything else.
No assets.
No assets. Yeah.
Like,
the assets I do have, I don't want to leave behind because they're probably not going to help. But
Just when I get cremated, just make sure you cremate those two.
Yeah, just burn everything. Oh man. And then
Man.
probably the most recently though is just like just having a have conversations with people. Where usually your mom would do or your parents would do kind of the phone calls and stuff before when at home stuff. So we ordered a couch in February from this place. We were super excited for it, and it just kept getting delayed. And so having to reach out, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, the manufacturer's delayed, because all of COVID messed everything up. And then like finally after going back and forth for a while, they messaged me this week. They're like, but yeah, we're gonna have to cancel your order because we don't have the materials to make the couch. I was like, what?
Just give me the one that's there in the showroom.
Yeah. So
just change out the.
yeah, so I was out. Yeah, so yeah, they canceled it. They're refunding us and all that. But I was like, man, it was just nice to be a kid and just show up and be like, oh, we got a couch, cool. Whereas now it's like, yeah. So adulting. But awesome, guys. Well, thank you guys for
just go
joining
to IKEA, Seba.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Hosea 1, and we'll be back soon in due time. And yeah, have a great weekend.